I'm Kevin Casey. I'm a professional mixed martial arts fighter. And right now what I'm about to do is issue a warning out to all other competitors.
I don't want overs. I just expect them to happen.
Fatty's gonna fatty is real.
He is terrible!
We gotta know how many wieners are going down these big strokes.
I want to go quick because I don't give a fuck about anything that's going to happen on Saturday.
Hello, boys! We're back for another edition of the MMA Analysis podcast. No Brad this week. We are joined by the usual suspects. The Canadian teenager. Not so much a teenager, but he looks like one. New Sean. And, of course, the man, the myth, the sod god.
Sod God.
Wes Colvin, the white Russian importer.
Oh, man.
What's happening?
I've been over here pulling some fucking Nate and open workouts, man. You're killing me over here, dude. Like...
So might as well just jump right into this.
Yeah.
Since I was out before we started recording, I didn't see what you guys saw, but apparently Nate's in town. He's in Vegas, kind of just doing California, Anaheim, right?
It's still legal.
Still legal there. I think that's right, Anaheim, right? It's not L.A.
Yeah.
Anaheim.
Yeah.
And he's I guess product placement. What's going on there? What happened?
Yeah, I mean,
legend shit.
Of course, Diaz has his own line of weed, so he's got to, just like some other people, I mean, you can't wear shirts other than Reebok and shit like that, so he's going to roll up with a joint and tell everybody that's his line of weed and you should go get it, so.
I'm going to look for a video while you guys continue.
Just a legend.
Bronister, our boy Bronister posted some video.
Oh, I'm taking a look right now. Oh,
It's fucking awesome, dude.
Did he even work out or just fucking stand on stage?
There is so much smoke. Jesus Christ!
Fuck
Like
yeah.
it's not even like not odorless. It's just thick.
He was taking hits and blowing out the smoke and then shadow boxing through the smoke and shit.
Can we take him seriously here though? I guess we'll talk about it later.
I mean, the front row was passing that motherfucker around and shit. Like, dude, just what a world.
What a world. Yeah,
it's different. It's different, man.
In a world that's changing on us, we still got this. So, that's a good thing.
He's overshadowing the main event, man. It's awesome.
But apparently it was supposed to be CBD, bud. So. That's good. Still great.
So hopefully he stays on the card and we get the fight.
Yeah, that would be terrible. I mean, that would be really bad from him. Like, really dumb.
Yeah.
Still great product placement by Nate. That was, Well,
that's on brand, baby.
I said it afterwards, like, seriously, Nate came out, been gone 3 years, and just came out and did in about 30 seconds what Kobe's been trying to do for a couple years now. And literally get the entire fucking internet and everybody around there to be talking about him. You know what I'm saying? And some guy.
Wes. I know you say that, but Colby has his whatever thing going on.
Yeah, but like
you gotta give. I know you're not a fan, but I mean, even you could like. His performance against Lawler was fucking very good.
There's the
better than we thought. Better than we thought was gonna happen.
Yeah, he did great. I mean, I won a bunch of money on him, but that doesn't mean anything when you got people saying, "Oh, he's a big attraction" or anything like that. Like,
yeah, I said it after Kobe's fight. I think he's a great fighter. My whole point is like people still don't give a shit about Kobe Covington. They just really don't. Nate moves the goddamn needle, like, period. People care about fucking Nate Diaz, and it's shit like this. Like,
because he has that he's not an athlete, he's a fighter mentality thing. Kind of like the Masvidal thing. It's like he's not trying to be an athlete to compete in professional sport.
That's just
I don't
him.
know, you get the feeling you might just get in a fight on the street kind of thing.
Yeah, it's authentic.
It's not fake.
That's a good word, Sean. Authentic. Okay.
People relate to authenticity way more than they do. And I mean, now I think we know that. I don't think it's 100% a gimmick that Kobe's doing, but a lot of it is, and people can see through that. You know what I'm saying? Like, people ain't dumb.
I mean, he came out to Kurt Angle's fucking music, and he was
great.
hoping people would chant "You suck," like you are playing part.
They did.
Yeah, and they did. It's just like that is
probably towards him though. Probably towards him though.
Of course, it was to him. That was the whole point. He was got a song so that he would rile up the crowd and he'd play the heel, but like that works in pro wrestling. That doesn't really work in MMA. It seems like anyway.
I don't know if it's like, well, you're talking about I'm not sure it's authenticity towards the character. It's like authenticity towards the fighting. Like they just feel like he's like a natural fighter. Like Nate Diaz, he's like.
And that's
like this raw thing. Like he's training in some dirty ass gym, and he like comes from nothing and he fights because he likes to fight kind of thing. It's like a very, I don't know. It's almost, I'm not gonna say like a fairy tale per se, but like there's like this. I don't know. People like that image of like what.
Well, and I mean, usually his fights are very fun, and I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. You can talk all the shit you want, but when you don't put on exciting fights and you don't have a very exciting style, it definitely loses the luster of all that shit talking and stuff like that.
If Kobe was out there fucking sparking dudes,
flatline,
none of it
a big deal.
None of it would matter. Straight up.
I'll say this. Is Colby Covington the 2019 version of Chael Sonnen?
I don't know. Chael, people actually like
Colby's
his
a better
stick.
fighter than Chael, though.
Well, I mean, people actually like Chael's stick, even though Chael had some hints of fucking xenophobia and a little racism in there, veiled racism from time to time and stuff. People, I mean, he was kind of the first to do it though. Like once you get past the originator, I think
that's true. That's a good point.
And people just see that Kobe tries too hard, like paying the models and shit. It's
a bit much.
You could tell Chael, even though it was a gimmick and a stick, it came naturally. You can tell when it's natural and when you're just. Kobe's a try hard. It just, you can tell it doesn't come natural to him, man. And but like Sean said, it wouldn't matter if he was out there sparking motherfuckers and knocking guys out and shit. It wouldn't matter. People would love him. Like straight up, that matters. Putting on good fights, it matters.
I also think the part of Chael's success at the time, at least with interest, or fan, I don't know, notoriety, was that he basically challenged the bully, or this, like the guy that was unbeatable, right? Like the guy that was considered the number one fighter in the world. Yeah. And no one could beat him, and Chael came damn near close to doing it. Mm-hmm. Colby doesn't have that dance partner. Yeah. At least, I mean, as good as Usman might be, or Woodley might be, or some of these other guys might be, they're not 6-7 year champions that are just kind of running through people. I mean, yeah, they're winning fights, but they're not. It's not like if it was George St. Pierre still at welterweight and still a champion and doing this bit, I think it might have a lot more. I think it might be getting over a little bit more, and he would be getting more notoriety for it. And then to actually challenge someone of that clout or that legend status. So I mean, a lot of this stuff has to do with having a dance partner.
Yeah, I agree with that.
McGregor needed Aldo.
Well, McGregor needed Nate.
Well,
that was
Nate though.
That was one of the biggest fights that's ever been. Nate.
Aldo made him grow because they had that world tour and then the pull out, and then I mean sparking him in 13 seconds that'll help too.
Yeah, that added to the legend of Conor, and then when you get Nate and Conor promoting a fight, that was just absolute fucking magic, They put that fight up on fucking YouTube this week, and it's already got over 11 million fucking views on it. 11 million. It's their most viewed YouTube video on the UFC's YouTube channel ever. 11 million views in this week on that fight. That's a guy that moves the fucking needle. Could you ever imagine Colby Covington getting 11 million views on his fight? Any of his fights?
Because the fighting style is not there. That's the reality of it. Yep. That's why John Jones, even as great as John Jones is, and how much we can appreciate him, he's not doing what he kind of did at one point.
Yeah, he's starting to get kind of dry and stale because
his
he's
fights are not entertaining. But people see that he's never been beaten, and there's still, when you have that kind of gaudy record, people are still interested because they're like, can anybody beat this guy? And there's an appeal to that, but you're not going to get like another crowd who's just looking for, whatever, that like classic kind of prize fight that.
Yeah, he doesn't finish guys in 1 or 2 rounds, so
no,
he doesn't have as much push as he possibly could, but
he's not going to do 800,000 pay-per-view buys ever again unless it's DC, and it's still not going to get there because
Nagano could,
and they're done that, Nagano, something like that.
That would be something special. Right.
Yeah, so it would take something like that.
He's not going to get 800 fighting Jan Blachowicz.
Nope. No. Or even Thiago Santos.
Another issue, though. But that's another issue. Like, there's no dance partner.
Nope.
No anymore. And no belief that he's going to lose. So
the sport is so watered down, man. It's incredible. None of this shit is even up to where the standards it was a couple years ago. I mean, just even a few years ago, you're going to get these great matchups from time to time that could do like
the Lyman Rockhold fight, going back even
shit like 2
years ago. That was a great card, highly anticipated.
But like it's not like they're doing that. They're doing like the same amount of cards. So I don't know what's different. Like are good fighters fighting less?
Well, I think
that's part of it. Yes.
That it's still the talent pool. You're still getting like you're doing all these Tuesday night fights. You're doing a lot of shit, man. There's other
I guess that's not counting those, but for
there's other orgs now
events, too. It's the same as it's been the last 2-3 years.
No, but he's going back a little farther. Maybe when there's only 30 events, now there's over 40.
Yeah, 10 events at 12 fights. You're talking 120 more fights a year. That's fucking a lot.
They've also added more divisions as opposed to like there used to be the lightweight division used to have over 100 fighters. Now is the best division.
Yeah.
Now you've had less lightweight fights and you've added women's strawweight. You've had more flyweight fights. Other things that people are not as excited about.
And the other orgs, I think, have a little bit to do with it too. When you have PFL putting out the money they're doing, you got Bellator signing a lot of those Dagestani wrestlers and shit like that that Bellator get their hands on that probably would have migrated to the UFC eventually. Even LFA and shit like that have legitimate competition and shit now. The UFC used to have their kind of pick of all those guys. Now they're going to other organizations and shit.
They're signing fighters earlier too. The UFC,
they're getting
coming from this contender series. And that's a smart thing to do.
I mean, like the Bellator signings, like people rag on Bellator, like those Dagestani wrestlers and even the collegiate All-Americans and shit that they sign early are like those guys are going to be fucking really good fighters that could have developed with the UFC and shit. That's how they used to do. You don't see that no more. They're like the contender series now. They're like, they call it the contender series, and there's fucking 30-year-old men fighting on it and shit.
Right. You know it ain't contenders, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's 30-year-old dudes with fucking 20 fights and shit on there. Like, come on.
Some of it's like a good story, like a journeyman.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Get a shot. And I get that once in a while, but like, I want to see like 21 to 25-year-olds that are upstarts and.
It's rarely that on it.
It just doesn't seem like that's what it is anymore.
It's rarely that on it.
It's definitely changed. I felt like that was the way it was the first season, maybe even a little bit of the second season. Now it's kind of just guys who have a little bit of a streak and can put on exciting fights.
This season hasn't been great or anything, man. Like some of the people they've signed off this season, like they signed that chick the other night.
I was not good. Yeah, she wasn't very
good.
What
the fuck? Like seriously? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. Like, I wish they did less fights on a card. There's gotta be ways that you can kind of make the events better, or just like a higher impact. But
And then they like they'll stack events like they're doing this weekend, which like they're still not learning how to put 3 or 4 really good fights at the top of the card, and then maybe doing. No, they give you like one card of like top to bottom great shit, and then like for the next month you're watching shit like we had last week.
yeah, that's part of the problem. I think.
And I wonder if that just has something to do with the ESPN deal now with the pay-per-view. I mean, they just guaranteed they're getting money from ESPN.
Yep.
So when they have like every second pay-per-view just as an absolute piece of shit, they don't care. Because they're like, oh, well, the big one's coming up, so watch for it.
Yep, it's a changing. Not for the better. I'm telling you, it's not for the better.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, sometimes there's certain things that excite us, but we've talked about being watered down and just being so many events that like it doesn't give you time to breathe. I think that's a real problem. Like, you can't look forward to fights because they're like even doing our show. I mean, like, there's no time to let it simmer or to like really look forward, because like, oh, all right, we saw the fights. Okay, 3 days later, where it's like we're getting ready to do another show, and we got fights 3 days later. Always. I mean, like, I get it, other sports have these problems, but there's no off season here, so it's just like constantly moving, and there's no time to breathe and to really get like a water cooler talk going.
That's a major problem.
That's its probably biggest problem.
It's just you consume and it's gone and on to the next one. And
like,
it's like what happened last week?
I wish that they actually did, like, they should probably like force it, but before every pay-per-view card to have a week off in between,
just to hype it up.
Just to have a chance to hype it up. Exactly. Even a week would be like really helpful. Like, 1 week is like, if you have that extra week, it's like just enough that you can kind of get some storylines going. People look forward to it, talking about it. Oh, but like
you can't even give time to like talk about good performances on a card. Like having that time to breathe, to like somebody has some amazing performance, young fighter, you want to move them up. Like, you don't even have a couple days to write a story and get it out there and talk, interview them. You got to move on to the next week and start getting your content out. You know what I'm saying?
Look, you could say the same thing about any sport. The NFL is once a week, but they have, months where they can kind of start talking about next season. And, in basketball, there's a game every other day. But, like, again, you have months off. You have free agency. There's just no time to think and to anticipate new things, and it's a challenge that, I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's really an answer for. So, yeah.
Like, I love it from being like a betting standpoint, of course. Like, I love having fights to bet on every week. That is awesome. But I remember a time when there was a pay-per-view a month, and just like you said, the build up, the week after a pay-per-view, being able to talk with people on message boards and stuff, and just talk about their great performances, build up fights, have really, really good matchups every pay-per-view. Sure. It was better. I like getting the fights we get in content that much. But like you said, even a week, even giving it like a week. And maybe even thinking about like just doing something like a Tuesday night fights, not a contender series or anything, but a Tuesday night fights with 4 or 5 fights to hold people, the hardcores over, you know what I'm saying? But saving all your really big stuff for your monthly cards. It just, we're way gone beyond that. So, we'll see how it plays out.
The only other thing I'll add to this, make it end the discussion, is I think the ability of the fighters is higher, and I think the fighters are just defensively better, and I think that creates a situation maybe where you have less entertaining fights or less blowouts because just defensively, like, there's just people are better prepared. And
Being
that definitely takes something away.
Being that good and that even is not a good thing always. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
Right.
They're like, you're right. Like your low end 155ers today would be champions 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like they would mop the floor with your highest rated guys back then. Like, you know, guys even like probably Matt Hughes and shit would have problems with a lot of the 170ers
like the Scott,
nowadays.
like the Scott Holtzmans of the world. Like, okay,
would be mauling fucking guys a little below Matt Hughes and shit. Absolutely.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
but that's a problem that makes for a lot of boring ass fights, man. You're right. Guys are so good defensively and so even and so well prepared now. It makes for a ton of fucking shitty fights, man. You're absolutely right.
But you get that in boxing too. I think that's part of it. Like nowadays in boxing, you know, like for every really entertaining fight, there's 8 or 9 where it doesn't seem like that much happens, and the ref steps in. It's like, okay, like, I mean, you know, I guess that's part of it. Like as a sport matures, there's gonna be that.
But
you know,
then
especially an individual sport.
Boxing went to where they started fucking having 2-3 great fights on a card and the fucking rest a bunch of bullshit. You buy the pay-per-view knowing what you're getting. UFC just ain't learned that yet. You know what I'm saying? Like you're right. They're getting to that.
Maybe they are learning. I mean, look at the last pay-per-view. I mean, there was like 1 or 2 good fights, and the rest of even the pay-per-view wasn't really great. Do we really need a 5-fight pay-per-view? I mean, candidly, I don't know.
Yeah, but then they also have their problems with like their ESPN deal, and you're gonna bury a fight like fucking Figueiredo and Pantoja on the undercard because you want it to be on ESPN and lead into a fucking pay-per-view or whatever, and that's just not how it works. But
I agree.
Yeah, it's different times, man.
Yeah, that's continuing to be the theme, is that we are moving into a different time, a different era, and the sport is different. On
a lighter note, we could be seeing a giant hog on the big screen sometime soon.
Whoa! That's right. As more, we've seen Bisping do some movies. We've seen who else? Andrei Arlovsky's done some things. Obviously, Ronda. GSP, obviously, from Marvel fame, of course. Yeah,
Keith Jardine, motherfucker.
Keith Jardine. Who else have we had? There's been a few other, obviously Gina Carano. There's been I guess Luke Rockhold maybe. I don't know if that happened. There was talk about Northcutt, but now Fast and the Furious 9, Francis the Hog, friend of the MMA Analysis, big friend of the Sodsman. Look at that! Your boy's going to Hollywood.
You might actually have to go see the Fast and Furious for that one, Wes.
I don't know.
You're not a fan.
Support.
My first one since the very first one. Yeah, yep. I guess I would have to support my dude. I'll wait for the DVD.
Wow.
That might be straight to Blu-ray, right?
Not a chance, Wes.
Not a chance. It's gonna make fucking $200 million.
That's what's fucked up.
Wes. There's a better chance that Blu-ray doesn't exist than this movie going to the theater.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's Fast and the Furious. That thing will make $100 million and spur like 7 fucking other fucking spinoffs and shit. Yeah, the Hog. When Jay mentioned he was gonna be in a movie, I thought he was talking about that new Bella Thorne directed
adult movie.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen that bulge. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise. I mean, if he wants to,
it's there.
I feel like that opportunity might be out there for him.
There's definitely a fan base for some stuff that Hagano could put on in one of those movies. I'll leave it at that.
No denying that.
Oh man.
No denying that.
Tyrone Woodley and Francis Ngannou making the porn industry great again.
Oh man.
Oh, what are we doing?
So should we go over this trash card that was last week or what?
I mean, the best part of the
We
card
get
was
ourselves in
was
trouble.
the fact that it was in Uruguay, and at least in Uruguay, you're going to get some atmosphere. It was entertaining, and the crowd was loud. I like that. They didn't give them the best card to watch. I mean, who cared about the first fight with Veronica Macedo getting a sub over Polyana Viana? Then we had something called Alex da Silva Coelho beat Rodrigo Vargas by decision. Yawn. Chris Gutierrez over Geraldo de Freitas in a split decision that was. Next fight, I know Wes has something to talk about. Rogerio Bontorin defeated his boy Rolian Pava Franzau with his boy looking like he had a koala over his eye. It was something else.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was like, it looked like he gave birth to triplets off his forehead, bro. Like it was, yeah, that was fucking ugly.
I guess we got to start believing in Bontorin. I think both these guys are pretty good. So
yeah, I like Pav. He was looking decent that fight till the cut. It was a hell of a brawl. It was a fun couple minutes.
Almost
yeah, it
3.
was. And then we went up to strawweight, and a girl that I've liked for a long time, the Tiny Tornado, Tisha
She's
Torres.
done.
She's
Stick
definitely
a fork.
she's definitely an elder woman in this weight class. I mean, she's not bad. She's just not good anymore. I think
She's too small too, man. She's just
5'1". She's tiny. You're right.
Yeah.
She should go to Invicta and fight in atom weight and win that shit.
Rodriguez throws in combination. It's not bad. Next up, this one I was looking forward to quite a bit. We got another Pessoa. He fought against Nagano, the Hawg's training partner, and one of the all-time, at least this year, I think this might be the top prop cash of 2019 at plus 2,200. Cyril Gane by submission. Who knew?
Oh, I gotta love heavyweights. Low-level heavyweights.
Nobody knew.
I don't hate this guy, but we'll see. I mean, I need to see a little more, but
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, he looked good in there.
We got to see some more. Yeah,
he looks comfortable.
Yeah.
His movement for a guy his size is
good.
Impressive. Like straight him, you can tell he trains with Ngannou straight up. But the movement was for a dude that fucking massive. Yeah, I'm intrigued for sure.
We're definitely intrigued. Not as intrigued by the next fight. This was another. I mean, we're not as cold as the man from Athens, but it's cold.
Sir Chicklets.
How the fuck was this guy taken down twice by Gilbert Burns? I mean, my goodness. Just if this was a 5-round fight, he easily wins. But man, Gilbert Burns, and then people are acting like Gilbert Burns put in some great performance. Like, come on now, guys barely got conditioning for 8 minutes.
Even moved up, didn't have to cut the weight and shit, and still was completely fucking toast in the third round.
Yeah.
The takedown that he gave up in the second, I believe, though, that
perfect timing by Burns, and
that was the fight, man. That still I can't believe that a guy of his fucking wrestling caliber and shit got taken down by Burns like that. He probably deserved to lose.
Yeah, maybe if this fight was in a different place, maybe it's different. I don't know. He didn't look like his from the onset. He didn't look like the same fighter that we saw.
He looked way too tentative, man. Like I don't know. Like we talked about it. I guess since he got to the UFC, he's kind of been a little bit more slow paced and stuff than he was over in M1. But
he's pretty old too.
Yeah,
I mean he's 35, so that could be part of it. Moving up to the main card. I mean, it's all the same. It's on ESPN Plus, if you ask me. But Barzola and Bobby Moffett, I thought this was a pretty even contest. Barzola split decision, probably should have been unanimous, but I mean, neither guy is really great. But it was entertaining enough. The next fight, there's a lot of hype behind the Brazilian Rodolfo Vieira. He subbed Oscar, the pie chode. This was pretty good, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm like I said about Gagne, I'm intrigued. But man, Rodolfo's got them muscles, man, and that motherfucker was gassing. So, when he gets into some guys that can fucking make those takedowns a whole lot harder at 185, we'll see how that gas tank holds up.
That sub game is pretty sweet though.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was.
yeah,
It was
it's
a bit
ridiculous.
scary when he didn't get it in the first, but
Right.
he was able to overcome, and I mean that's what you're wanting to see. But it was on display. Any little he gets given an inch and he takes a mile, it's over. So he's still a scary dude. I'm sure there's going to be people lining up to fade him next time, but. Paichota's not a terrible jiu-jitsu guy, so I mean,
he's a black
he's
belt.
not.
It's not like it's like some super high level black belt, but I mean he's a
so
black
depending
belt.
on the
But
matchup,
there's black belts and there's black belts.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
fair.
then there's world leaders
Then there's guys like fucking Vieira. Like that dude is insane.
like
But-
him and Jacare and those. I mean, it's just different level.
He might still be able to run over the next guy. I mean, it just depends on the matchup.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they got coming for him next.
Can we see him versus Shoeface? I think that would be fun.
I feel like that's just gonna get sloppy and terrible real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about just in a Jits contest? Next fight, I gotta say, I think Wes and I kind of saw this one right. Ozdemir had a masterclass over Latifi.
Yeah.
This was
Yep.
easily his best performance. Latifi he was just obliterated. Latifi's getting old, and I get that. We love him. He's a friend of the show, but Volkan needed a big win like this and to kind of reposition himself in this division, and did so with, I think, his best performance in his UFC career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though Latifi, I think, is getting a little older, and he definitely slowed down quick in this fight. Give a lot of credit to Volkan, man. He put the heat on him, and Latifi doesn't get finished like that often. That was impressive, man. And I still say that Volkan beat Reyes. However slow and terrible you think that fight was, I still think he won that fight. And I don't think Volkan's necessarily a threat to John Jones in any way, but it's another intriguing matchup for John Jones, because I think Volkan is definitely, it's a better matchup for him than the DC fight is.
Yeah, because DC's not dumb and we'll just take him down.
Yep,
Whereas John Jones
exactly.
will fuck around on the feet and might
Yep.
get KO'd.
Yep, exactly. Because John could get him to the mat like DC did and work him over if he wanted, but we know John's not going to do that. So, yeah, I mean that's definitely the best performance of his career, and it's another warm body for the GOAT.
That's true. 3 fights left in the card. The lone Uruguayan on the card, Luis Eduardo Garagori, took out Humberto Bandone by decision. I was entertained. I mean, it was. This is the kind of low level MMA that West is kind of alluding to, like maybe 10 years ago, that we saw in the UFC, and it created for some entertaining fights because guys really didn't know what to do defensively, and they get hit, they get hurt, they get damaged. People are entertained. This was kind of a throwback to that. Glad to see the Uruguayan guy get the win. That's what they wanted, and I mean, it's good. I mean, I hope there's more South Americans outside of Brazil that start really taking up the sport. I think it would, add some new flavor. Just some different fighting styles, just more entertainment, better, more enjoyable cards. Co-main event, easily the best fight on the card, the one that everybody was looking forward to. Vicente Luque and Platinum Mike. Wes, I know you thought Luque was going to run away with this fight, but even though Perry got his nose smashed and ultimately lost the decision, it was hard to know who was going to win this fight on the cards. And candidly, I think Perry really, came out a winner here, that he can be in this welterweight division for a while.
Yeah,
Might not be able to now. But.
A couple things for me on this fight. One, props to Perry. Perry's improved like that. However
Come a
you
long
feel
way.
however you feel about Mike Perry, if you see him on Twitter and just on the internet and shit, that dude works his ass off. Like, he trains his ass off and has put in the time, and he's much more than the barroom brawler with a chin and a big right hand than that I was calling him a couple years ago. He put on it was a really close fight, man. He gave Luque all that he can handle. I think Luque is really, really good, man, but he's got some glaring holes that Perry exploited, man. He gets hit. Luque, for as good as his fucking striking is, and even his footwork to a certain extent, man, that guy does not move his head, man. He does not fucking bob and weave or move his head off the center line at all. And it's going to cost him eventually. Like, he's starting to take a lot of fucking, a lot of punishment in his last couple of fights, and it's going to get him eventually. But Mike Perry didn't win that fight, man. I don't care what anybody says, man, especially under the new rule system, which they plainly stated was in play on that fight card.
No, he lost that fight.
You can't fucking walk out there with your nose hanging off your face and expect to get a decision, man. There's just no way. I get that you could argue like a couple of the round, the first and the second round was kind of close, man, but damage matters, especially under the new scoring system. Damage matters, and Luque put far more damage on Mike Perry. I thought that was maybe the second round. You could probably argue that or the first round. Hell, they were
first two were both fairly close.
Yeah, they were both fairly close as far as striking numbers and all that, but it just seemed like Luque was always he was right where he wanted to be in that fight, I think. And there was times where Perry, you could see, was worried and kind of coming in wild and knew he had to do something in these rounds. And Luque was cool, calm, and collected like he usually is. And I thought he won the fight, but massive props to Mike Perry, man. That dude's gotten really good, and it sucks his fucking nose got literally decapitated from his fucking face, because I'd like to see him back in there soon, man. You know you're gonna get a show when he fights, and I'm looking forward to him fight again. That might be a while now, though.
Yeah, after something like that, who knows if he'll ever beat the same fighters? Just because once a nose gets smashed like that, yeah, it can easily get smashed again. So that's kind of unfortunate, because he's a fun guy to watch. I definitely had my ass clenched when they read the scorecards, because I knew it was going to be a tight one. I gave Luque, I think, the first and the third, but I mean, they were close rounds. It just depends on kind of what you favor, and I don't really blame too many people for giving Perry a round or even two. So I mean, it's not surprising in this day and age with how judging is that we would get a split decision. But yeah, Luque gets hit too much. It's a little sketchy going forward, but he's a tough bastard.
His hands are just fucking amazing, though.
His hands are so good, but he's just defense. He's got to work on that head movement. Needs Edmund.
There's guys with hands like that and have head movement and defensive tactics like a guy like Calvin Cutter, and then there's guys like Vicente Luque, and there's a difference between those dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. Main event. Man.
Fuck.
I mean, does this truly surprise anybody? They talked this up. Oh, Carmouche, the experienced, blah, 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 blah. The blah, blah, blah. The fact
Canceled.
That he beat Shevchenko in 2010. And
there's no even video of this. Nobody even knows if it actually happened.
It was at an event called C3 Fights Red River Rivalry, okay? Like, Jesus Christ.
There's no telling what happened that night. Seriously.
Yeah. They try to say, like, come on now, like, let us. I didn't. Carmouche is a spokesperson for a medical marijuana company too, Wes. Didn't know that.
She fights like she's a spokesman for a medical marijuana company.
Slow and nothing. She offered nothing in this fight. She had
She
nothing
didn't even
to offer.
try. It was a fucking joke, man. How are you gonna get a fucking title shot and not
Yep.
even try to do anything in that fight?
She tried to say afterwards that she really wants to get the trilogy
Yeah,
because
get fucked. They should
she-
cut her, and I'm not even.
Based on what?
I'm not even
Based
joking.
on what?
because
what
she
was her
said she didn't think Shevchenko. She thought Shevchenko was going to be a lot more aggressive towards her, and she would get the counter more. Like, then you be aggressive, motherfucker. It's a title fight, you stupid motherfucker.
Fuck off.
Yeah, she should have been more aggressive.
You don't deserve anything.
Nope.
She deserves
like
to be
she-
cut, man. That's
cut
a
her.
joke.
It's like saying Woodley deserves a second chance against Usman. Like, get over it. No way. Enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sickening that you would get a title shot at the age that she's at and then don't even try. I mean, she had like single digit significant strikes landed going into the 5th round, I believe. Like, are you kidding me? That's what you're gonna do? Like, UFC should make a statement and cut her. I'm not even
Get a
not
title
even
shot
exaggerating.
like that.
Yeah.
Like straight up. And
That's what you're gonna do.
Yep.
She wasted everybody's time.
Waste of everything.
And they like you see guys like you don't really want to compare, but you see a guy like Thiago Santos got his title shot, and the dude was out there on 2 blown fucking legs.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And was still spamming leg kicks on John Jones because he was fighting for a title. And then you got some shit like this, like cut her.
And she's never been champion, and she deserves, and she should be rewarded for another opportunity, a second chance. Like, come on, Carmouche, do you this how the shit works in the military? Come on now, not how it works. You should know
Because
this.
she wasn't aggressive enough coming towards you. Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me?
Okie dokie.
There are no second chances, Carmouche. Get over yourself.
Yeah, let's try to forget that ever happened and we all wasted fucking half an hour watching that shit show.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
Yep.
Big pay-per-view this weekend. We got something to look forward to at least. UFC 241 from the Honda Center in Anaheim. Unfortunately, new Sean, or maybe fortunately if you make money on it, we got a women's flyweight fight to start the card. Since I don't really care about who wins because ultimately it doesn't matter between Sabina Mazo and Shayna Dobson. Are you going to be betting over?
No. Don't care.
You really have not been betting these female overs recently. You're saying they're too far out of reach.
It's minus 335 to go to decision, and there has been a bunch of
There's
finishes
been some
recently.
finishes. Yep.
So I'm counting my lucky stars that I've kind of jumped off and picked my spots a little more selectively.
It's not the same anymore, is it, man? You 2.5s at minus 200. Now you're paying fucking minus 400 for a.
They
to
caught
go-
on.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sorry, new Sean.
it's okay.
Let's move on because I don't want to talk about it either. We got what should be entertaining. We got Brandon Davis taking on Kyung Ho Kang in the bantamweight division. Wes, any thoughts on my man Ho Kang?
Yeah, Brandon Davis is terrible. And Kane can bang, man, for a fucking Asian dude. That dude throws down. Yeah, he's gonna win.
New Sean.
Yeah, I like Kang here. He's a lot more active than Davis. I think he can get takedowns and possibly even lock up a sub. I put Kang in a parlay, a 1-unit parlay.
Yep. That's a win.
I got both these guys as a C-. I'm a little more optimistic.
Davis is C-. What?
We'll see, Wes. There's these guys are about
Well,
the same height.
He beat Ishihara, so I mean that's got to be
Yeah.
at least a C, right?
I'm talking about Brandon Davis. Oh man.
I mean, here's the thing. Kang only lands 2.6 strikes per minute. Davis is landing over 5. He also gets hit a lot
Not
more.
all strikes are created equal either.
That's true, but
Kang hits with big power.
my point is there's a volume difference, and that could be difficult. But the thing with Kang is he secures 68% of his takedown attempts, secures over nearly 2.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. Brandon Davis' takedown defense only 57%. So you got to think Kang is going to look for takedowns here and look to take the fight to the ground.
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think Kang could secure some takedowns. He might have to take a little damage on the feet, but I'll say Kang because of top control, but it's not a blowout. Let's move on. Oh boy. Cyphers and girl Jody Escabel in the women's strawweight division, Wes. Yeah, there's no way
Man.
Escabel will win this fight, is there?
Man, Escabel is legitimately one of the worst fighters on the entire roster. Like that's
fair.
no bullshit. I think she's like
6-5 in her career.
I mean, she's like 1 for her last 6 or 7, I believe.
Only
I mean,
1 in 4 in her last 5. Wes, come on, give her some credit.
1 in 4.
She lost to Jessica Aguilar, dude.
She lost to Alexa Grasso, too.
She's 1 in 5 in her last 6. Or she's 1 in 5 in her last 6 fights, and the only win was over Deanna fucking Bennett. Like,
I mean, she lost to Alex Chambers.
Yeah, she was fucking terrible. Even though I don't think Cyphers is great or anything, she's gonna smash her.
Esquivel definitely has little dick pictures of Dana, because there's no way she should be in.
They must have like a group fucking chat to where there's like 7 or 8 of them that all have these pictures. You know, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Cyphers hopefully pounds her out, and we don't have to watch this for fucking half an hour, 20 minutes.
Yeah, here's the thing about Escabel. She absorbs 8.3 significant strikes a minute.
How is that even possible?
I mean,
That's
Cyphers
gotta be the
absorbed
highest.
6.59, but like one of those losses to Macy Barber who just throws punches and bunches. I mean, Escabel lost the fight to Jessica Aguilar not too long ago. It's bad. I got Cyphers a D+, Escabel an F. That says it all. I don't think Escabel could be any fighter currently in this division. I mean that. So you have to like Cyphers here. I think she may be worthy of a parlay inclusion just because it's a complete fade of Escabel. I am doing a very Georgia-like thought process in this fight, if you catch my drift. It's something must be in the water. I'll leave it at that. That was a little Easter egg. Anyway, let's move on.
The bag.
Breaking the fourth wall here. I don't like it. Anyway, we got Drakkar Klose taking on Christos Giagos. Still not sure how Giagos got back in the UFC, but won his last fight over Hadzovic. That was definitely a consensus loss. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, even off that last fight, Giagos is just absolutely horrible, and somehow he was able to control Hadzovic in that fight and got some takedowns. He's not doing that to Klose. I mean, Klose is going to manhandle him all over the cage, man. I actually don't get this line. I think this is way low. Minus 185 on Klose here is a gift in my opinion. I think Klose wins this kind of how he wants, man. But it's gonna be him a lot of takedowns, man. I think he can take Giagos down at will, get some ground and pound, and probably get a finish in the second or third round. So yeah, I like Klose. I like Klose quite a bit here, man. I think he absolutely smashes Giagos. Now I think this might be Klose's first fight since leaving the lab. Yeah. But I know a few guys have left the lab and are training at a different gym with one of the coaches, so still have some of the same kind of guys and voices around him. And maybe from everything that I've read about it, it's more of some of these guys didn't feel like they were getting the kind of the one-on-one coaching and stuff that they thought they should get, and that should be a good thing more than a bad thing. So Klose should be prepared for this fight, and I think he's going to smash, man. I think this is a gift of a line.
Okay, Nushan.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Wes said. Giagos is terrible on the feet. His only path to victory is getting people down, which is what he did against Hadzovic. I don't think he's going to be able to do that against Klose, and I think Klose will probably even look to take him down because Giagos doesn't really have that good a takedown defense himself. Close should easily win the stand up, and I think
Mm-hmm.
he can get some takedowns. So I took him at minus 180 for a unit. I just laid it. I don't know if he'll get a finish. He hasn't shown too much of a finishing acumen in the UFC, but this is a pretty damn good
This is the
style
guy.
matchup for him.
Yeah.
And the guy he's fighting has a decent amount of losses by finish. So this could be the one. Like Wes said, this is closest first fight after leaving the lab. He followed the coach there. Normally, like Wes said, it's a bad thing, but the only thing I worry about is just number of training partners. Hopefully he's getting guys his size that are decent and up to caliber to give him some good, training, wrestling, sparring, all that shit. But pretty confident and close. I think this line is low. Yagos is not good.
Yeah, I got both guys I got Jagos a D+, Closa a C. I mean, I was surprised about Christos Yagos' last fight. They had as much success with the takedowns. I think it's going to be really hard for him to take down Drakkar Klose in this bout. That's really the key here. Klose is definitely the more volume striker, roughly 3.5 significant strikes a minute versus Jagos is 2.4. Klose has 70% takedown defense. I think that should be enough here against Jagos. I mean, he just has a much better motor. That's really the key. Better motor, better body of work. I'll take Drakkar Klose as well. And that's the first half of our consensus parlay for this card is Drakkar Klose. We'll tell you the rest once we get to it. All right, Manny Bermudez and Casey Kenny in the bantamweight division. The first of back-to-back bantamweight fights. The second one is really good. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, Bermudez and Kenny. Wes.
Yeah, actually, I like both these guys. I think this line though is kind of got a little bit to do with Kenny's last fight against Ray Borg, and I just think, even though I think that was a good performance against a good guy, man, Borg had so many things going on, still does, but hadn't fought in a while coming into that fight, and I think absolutely overlooked Casey Kenny. Kenny's got some okay wins down at LFA, but nothing spectacular. And personally, I think Manny Bermudez is the better, more proven guy here, man. I think he's going to be the better wrestler. I think it's going to be a lot of scrambling, a lot of grappling, and I just think Manny Bermudez is the better guy there. He's got just sub after sub after sub. I think Kenny this is going to get to the mat, and Kenny's probably going to be in a little bit of trouble when it does hit the mat. Should be a high-paced, fun fight, though. I just think Manny Bermudez is just a little bit better on the mat than Casey Kenny. And if Kenny didn't have that win over Ray Borg last time out, I think this line is in the minus 180 range, minus 200 range personally. So, yeah, Manny Bermudez is going to be a bet for me. I'm not sure he gets Kenny with a sub, but I think he does enough to get a pretty easy decision in this fight at the least. So yeah, I like Manny Bermudez, and he's going to be a bet.
No, Sean.
Yeah, I like Bermudez too. This dude's pretty damn good. He's got a lot of finishes. Like Wes said, I think Casey Kenny is getting a lot more. He's getting a backing because of his last fight, but there was a lot going into that. I think Bermudez is going to be the bigger guy, the stronger guy, and he's going to be able to get Kenny down and possibly lock up a sub. So I took Bermudez. I got him minus 123. I got him for a unit.
He opened minus 245.
That's insane.
The line move on her, I just don't get. That's got to be purely off of Kenny's last fight. It's got to be. I don't know what else you're basing that kind of line movement on, but we'll see.
I got both these guys a C. I'm not actually fully on board with Wes's thoughts here. I think the grappling submission game of Bermudez could be a real problem for Kenny.
Borg is, when he fought Borg, first of all, Borg wasn't in the right state of mind. Obviously, the family issues, I think, certainly took away from his just focus for this fight. And then two, Borg's more of a grappler for striking as opposed to for submission per se. Bermudez is more of a submission grappler. So I like that advantage for him here. On the feet, I think it's maybe a little bit of advantage for Kenny, but I totally expect this bout to go on the mat. I like Bermudez's submissions. I think he gets the win here. Not a bet at this point, but I do like Bermudez. The next bout, which I was alluding to, is really good and probably easily the best fight on the prelims. We got Rafael Assunção taking on a guy who's really surging up this division, Corey Sandhagen. Wes, start us off.
Yeah, this is a really fun one. As crazy as it might sound, I think this is a tougher kind of stylistic matchup for Sandhagen than John Lineker was. You kind of know what you're getting with Johnny Lineker, even though I think Lineker won that fight. Me personally, that was a huge win for Sandhagen. I think this is a little bit tougher fight, man. Rafael Assunção just brings just a more dynamic game, I think, than Lineker does, and it's a close fight, man. I favor Sandhagen here just because his volume is just absolutely insane, and we all know how judges just totally favor the fighter just throwing shit. It really doesn't matter what it's doing or even if it's landing half the time, as long as you're throwing stuff out there. And we know Sandhagen is gonna throw 400 fucking punches in this fight. I think he's got to keep it on the feet though, and keep it at that range that he likes to fight at. Assunção is gonna try to not let him do that, man. We know Assunção is gonna try to get in and make this fight dirty, and this is the toughest fight of Sandhagen's career, man. It's a really close fight, man. I'm picking Sandhagen at this point. I think his volume and the way he uses his reach and uses it at distance is just masterful. The dude already does it better than a lot of guys there's countless guys that have reach and length like Sandhagen does that have zero fucking clue how to use it and has me screaming at my fucking TV all the time. Sandhagen is not one of those guys, man. That guy absolutely knows how to use his reach. He knows how to stay on the outside. I think that's his path to victory here, and if he can do that for 3 rounds, he's going to beat Assunção. But like I said, man, Assunção is still a really tough out, even at 37 years old. But that's just another thing that I kind of favor Sandhagen at this weight class. Once you get up to that kind of age, you start to slow down and lose that speed. And just this could be the point to where Assunção starts to hit that wall a little bit. So favor Sandhagen. I haven't bet it yet, but if the line comes back down a little bit, I might throw a little bit on Sandhagen.
All right, Nushan.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too much more to add. I really like Sandhagen here. It is going to be a little sketchy. He has been taken down by every single fighter he's faced in the UFC. So I'm assuming Assunção is going to be able to take him down. Hopefully he can just get back up fairly quickly and doesn't get laid on for too long, because when it's on his feet, like Wes said, his pressure, his volume is very, very good for this division. Uses his reach well. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage. He's got a 6-inch height advantage. If it's on the feet, I expect him to wear out Assunção by just the volume of strikes that he throws. But yeah, that takedown defense is worrisome. But I expect the young guy to take over in this fight, and Assunção's going to show a little bit of his age. So I took Sandhagen. I got -141. I got that for 2 units.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I don't. It's tough. I got, from what I've seen from the past, I saw Sunsao as a B plus. I have Sandhagen at B, but you guys are right though. I mean, Sunsao's advanced age. I mean, it could easily drop off pretty quickly. I'll say this, even though Sandhagen's volume is super high, over 8 significant strikes a minute, Sunsao is just a really good counter striker, and he makes fights ugly and difficult for guys. I mean, we saw how he fought against Marlon Moraes.
Yep.
You just don't know. Even though he could be outgunned, he finds himself in close fights and always finds his way to the scorecards. It seems like, not always, but more often than not, it's he's just a fighter, and a fight that I tend to avoid. I think Sandhagen could win though, just based on volume. I think that could be a difference maker here, but I don't know. Like, for Sandhagen, this is like a totally different type of fight. It's
his
hard
toughest. It's his toughest fight.
It's really hard to prepare for Sunsao, I think. So I would pass betting it personally. It would just make me feel uneasy the whole time. Anyway, I don't even know what this is. We got Devontae Smith, who I've seen fight. I mean, did they pick up somebody off Santa Monica, on the Sunset Strip? What the fuck is a Karma Worthy?
Well, I mean, he fought in something called Brawl in the Berg, so I'm thinking they pulled him out of a Rite Aid out of Pittsburgh.
He fought 3 weeks ago. Why do I have a funny feeling that he's not even going to make weight?
Is he a male stripper? I mean, come on, this can't be a real name.
I mean, he's got to be jacked up.
I gotta look up a picture.
This dude looks like he's been drinking 3 Mile Island fucking water for about 5 years, dog.
I'm looking up a picture.
I was ready to.
His nickname is the Death Star. Oh God,
Yeah.
help us.
I threw some money on Collard at like plus 500 just because I'm all about fading Devontae Smith. I think at some point he's going to run into somebody that can take a punch and is going to put it on him. But this guy is definitely not that. So, yeah, he should probably destroy this guy in probably the first round.
This is
So
just
you're
pathetic.
you're saying the comma isn't worthy.
Definitely not. I mean, when you're getting knocked out by Kyle Nelson, Matt Bassett, Anthony Reddick, I don't even know who the fuck that is. Not a good sign. He's been knocked out in the first round in 2 fights, the third round in another fight, the second round in another. Like, this guy's gonna get flatlined.
Probably. I mean, I don't even know what else to say. I mean, I don't know how you could ever have your money on something called Comma Worthy.
I also don't know why this is the last card or last fight going into the pay-per-view. Like, why is, I mean, I guess the Sunsao makes fights dirty and boring, so maybe that's why, but that's definitely a more worthy fight to go into the pay-per-view. I guess they're just looking to sacrifice a soul.
That's what it seems like. I mean, it really does. I mean, he's got 2 wins in the UFC, but like, Devontae Smith has beaten Julian Erosa and Dung Young Ma. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what are we doing with this guy? He's 26. I mean, he's got a 76-inch reach in this weight class. I just don't understand. Like, what are they doing?
He was supposed to fight McDessie, and then McDessie got hurt, and then he was supposed to fight Clay Collard.
Okay.
But then
Clay
he
Collard's
got sick.
back?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
They were bringing him back, and then he pulled out. Wow. So this is the 3rd fighter he was supposed to fight. So that is a little sketchy. I would not be laying minus, what is it up to now? 800 now? Yeah, I'm good on that. I'll just keep my pocket change.
I'll pass. Anyway, let's move on. Main card, we got one of Wes's favorites, one of his favorite things to do, Derek Brunson. Taking on Ian Heinisch. What is going on there?
Oh my God!
What are you
seeing? Just our chat. I'm fucking dying over here. Oh, it's good stuff.
Oh, that is good. Anyway, Richard Reed. Okay. Anyway, carry on.
I'll pull that dude out of the cabin in the woods, bro.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about Heinisch and your boy. There are going to be edibles involved in this fight.
Is there any 100-unit Scud missiles worthy on this fight?
From what I'm hearing, if you want to pay for a yearly package, this is the one to get in on.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see Heinisch making anybody do the Billie Jean's Not My Lover, but you never know with Derek Brunson, man. But I'm not sold on Heinisch, man, whatsoever. I know there's some people that are. I mean, he was life and death for a round and a half with fucking with Shoeface. I don't think that's a great look. He did get the win there, but I just think Heinisch is so one-dimensional, man. If he can get you down and lay on top of you, yeah, he's probably gonna take some rounds. I personally think Derek Brunson's wrestling is good enough to keep this on the feet, and I just no way in hell think that Heinisch at this point is a better striker than Derek Brunson. I don't think Heinisch throws anything that, Brunson does have a questionable chin. I just don't think Heinisch brings anything to the table that's gonna ask any questions of Brunson's chin in this fight. And I like Brunson in this spot, man. I haven't bet it. There's still a lot of questions with Brunson, and now there's apparently a fucking Scud missile, fucking Iraqi Operation Freedom play on Brunson. Yeah, so I just I'm a little worried about that kind of stuff. But Brunson's going to be a pick for me here, man. I really do think he gets it done in this fight. But there's absolutely still some question marks about Derek Brunson. But I'm far from sold on Heinisch like a lot of people that I see.
Nushan, are you as high on Brunson as Wes is? I mean, I don't know how anyone could be.
I'm not high on either of these guys. This is just a stay away fight for me. Heinisch has pretty bad takedown defense. He got taken down 4 times by Shoeface, 5 times by Mutanch. He was able to survive in those fights, and then when those Brazilian dudes were tired, then he got his takedown and he was able to get a decision. Brunson has 100% takedown defense. Hasn't fought any crazy wrestlers that are just going to specifically go for that, but that's still impressive for a guy that's fought in the UFC for how long.
Wait, YOLO didn't take him down?
No, he actually took YOLO down 3 times.
Brunson's a good wrestler, man.
Got smashed in, that's right. Yeah, he was a pretty good wrestler, you're right.
I mean, he's a really good wrestler. He just doesn't really show it that often. He might in this one with how bad Heinisch's takedown defense is, but do you remember that Brunson Theodoro fight, man? Holy shit, that was bad. I can't keep that out of my head. Heinisch can probably do what Theodoro did there and make it a close fight, closer than that one was. So I'm staying away. Staying away.
Can Heinisch even do what fucking Theodoro does? I don't think he can.
I don't think he has the flick kicks down pat like Theodoro does. But
true, very true.
Yeah, I gotta pick Brunson. I think he has a decent amount of advantage in this fight. I just don't want money on the smooth criminal.
Oh yeah, I don't know how anyone could. Yeah, I mean, I got both these guys a C+. This is really tough. I mean, I tend to like Brunson too because, like, again, never been taken down. Heinisch has to outstrike him to win, but there's just so many mookie things with Brunson that I don't want my money anywhere near him. I got to be honest with you. So I'm going to pass. And we'll move on to bigger and better things. I think this fight will actually be quite entertaining. Featherweight bout. This is really the appetizer before 3 consecutive main courses. We got Gabriel Benitez taking on Contender Series winner, right?
Yep.
Sodiq Youssef. Wes, how good will this fight be?
Yeah, should be pretty entertaining. I'm I wasn't much of a believer in Youssef as most were until that last fight. Man, what he did to Moraes was pretty impressive, man. That was a pretty decent performance against a guy that I rate pretty highly. But more than anything, I think Benitez is kind of, I mean, I don't want to say overhyped because I don't even think he's hyped or anything, but the line here I think is just overinflating him a little bit, man. If you really look at some of his wins in the UFC, man, they're against some really, really bad guys. And then he's lost to, I mean, Feely when Feely wasn't really on the run that he is now. Enrique Barzola and shit. It's just, he's beaten some pretty shitty dudes in the UFC, and he's facing a guy that's just a high level striker in a fight that I think is probably going to be a kickboxing match, and he's going to get tooled in a kickboxing match. So yeah, I like Youssef.
All right, Nushan.
Yeah, I like Youssef too. I think anywhere he wants this, he has a decent advantage in the standing and the striking. He obviously has an advantage, and we've seen against Shayman Moraes and a couple of others fights, he is really good, grinding on guys against the cage and wearing them out if he needs to. So if stuff gets a little crazy, he can do that. Can also holler at his boy Lloyd and get him to toss the old chloroform in, and then it's going to be game over for Gabriel Benitez. But yeah, I expect Youssef to put in work in this one, and unfortunately, Team Rape Irvin is going to get another win. I put Youssef with Kang. I got plus 105 for a unit.
Yeah, this is. I got Benitez a C-, Youssef a C+. He just lands more, and he's got bigger power. He's a better athlete than Benitez, and I like Benitez. I thought he's done a pretty good job in the UFC. Was on that tough Latin America season, and I think he has I kind of like his game. He's kind of he got that veteran savvy, but Youssef's definitely a guy on the rise. I think will be a top 15, top 10 guy in this division, and he should continue with the win here. And that is our second leg of our consensus parlay. Sodiq Youssef and Strakhar Klose. And Nushan, what does that pay?
Plus 112.
Plus 112. Okay, that is it. 3 fights to go, 3 main courses. Ooh. We got friend of the MMA Analysis, Lil Drunk, Paulo Costa, taking on from an MMA Analysis, the old man himself, the fountain of youth, the soldier of God, the gay Jesus, YOLO Romero. Wow.
Ooh,
we've been looking forward to this fight for a long time because they were supposed to fight like 6 times already.
Yep.
But we're a couple days away. The fight's still out there. They got to weigh in, but we're close. This can't be boring. How?
Not the way Lil Drunk fights.
Yeah, this has got to be good. Man, I tell you, if YOLO wasn't a Cuban 42 at this point, which probably means more like 50, and I'd like him in this fight, man, but
Wow.
I think he's the better guy. I mean, I really do. I think he's just a far more skilled guy than Paulo Costa at this point. But, man, at like I said, a Cuban 42, there's no way he's 42 years old still, even at 42. Man, you can't trust YOLO at 42, man, especially off of those Whitaker fights. I know he had the destruction of Luke Rockhold in between, but man, those were 2 brutal fights for YOLO. Especially the last one. Man, Costa's just, god damn, he's a tank, man. And not saying that the skill gap is crazy at this point. Man, it's hard for me to take Costa in this spot too, just because I know what an absolute freak YOLO is. You never know, man. That guy can just pull out freaky shit from nowhere. I mean, he was in with Robert Whittaker both times, a guy that most think is one of the best at 185. I mean, he was in both of those fights. He gave Whittaker all he wanted. I mean, is Costa that much better than Robert Whittaker? I'm not so sure about that. Man, it's a close fight, man. I just see so many variables in this fight. It's even hard for me to pick a winner. I'm probably gonna pick YOLO just because it's all can't remember the last time I picked against that guy. But man, is it gonna surprise me if Costa fucking starches YOLO at some point in this fight? Absolutely not, man. That guy is just an absolute fucking hoss, man. And this will probably end up sort of a kickboxing match. Who knows, man? If you can say you have 100% know what's gonna happen in this fight, I think you're out of your mind. It should be wild, should be fun. I'm gonna pick YOLO because I always pick YOLO, and I'm gonna sit this one out and enjoy it.
New Sean.
So I played YOLO small, just a unit at minus 150. He's just a much more known commodity for me. I know he was in those hellacious wars with Whittaker. He did take over a year off. He hasn't fought since June 2018. So that's a good thing and a bad thing at his age. Hopefully he's not regressing too much, but at least it gives him time to heal up and get ready for this fight. Costa hasn't fought in over a year as well. His last win when he wrecked Uriah Hall. I'm just curious to see what Lil Drunk has when he's not just walking guys down and just flat. Like Hall was throwing the jab really good in that fight, but he wasn't really throwing anything of substance. He did clip Lil Drunk and dropped him really quick, but he was back in it right away. So I'm just curious of what Costa does once he gets hit with something of significance or just can't just steamroll somebody. But like Wes said, if he comes in and just flatlines YOLO, would I be surprised? Not really. He throws with so much power. He throws body shots. He throws to the head. He's got a very, very good striking game. So YOLO's going to have to be on point. Maybe mix in some takedowns. We haven't really seen much from Lil Drunk in that kind of scenario. So I'll just pick the more known one, just trying to see what Lil Drunk is, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay. I got B- for Costa, A for YOLO. Again, you never, like, kind of like the Sun Sal thing, you don't know when this guy is going to fall off a cliff. But he's just has such a proven track record. It's unbelievable how competitive YOLO Romero has been against the likes of a Robert Whittaker, Luke Rockhold, Lyoto Machida.
The top, the upper echelon.
I mean, Chris Weidman. Little Drunk. I mean, I love him. He's a berserker, but I mean, he got in a war with Uriah Hall. Okay, he was hurt against Uriah Hall. YOLO. It's the YOLO of 2 years ago. Kind of,
kills him.
Like blazes him, puts him on the ground, probably elbows him to oblivion, and ends this. But it's tough. It's tough. At some point, it's gonna fall off, and it's gonna be over for YOLO, but I don't know if it's here yet. Minus 155, I'm not in. I get this down to minus 130, I think I'm in. But let's see.
We said it multiple times, man. YOLO comes into this sport right off fucking the Olympics or something, and he might go down as the greatest ever. No bullshit. It's true.
That would have been something if he fought. If he fought Anderson at a younger age, that would have been pretty awesome. Anyway, let's move on. 2 fights left. Co-main event. We talked about him earlier.
the return of the Wolf tickets. Nate Diaz taking on. It's like brother love. Like you got two brothers in the UFC fighting. Like Anthony Pettis. Wow. At welterweight. I mean, this could have been at lightweight. I don't know why it's at welterweight, but here we are. I mean, maybe Anthony Pettis is feeling his oats after that stunner over Wonder Boy. Yeah. You know what? I'll start with New Sean just because I know he wants to talk about his guy.
He doesn't, though.
But I feel like he deserves the podium.
I mean, it's good to have Diaz back. It's been 3 years. I think the fight game is a better game when he's in it and active and pulling all of his shenanigans. It's interesting he came back for this fight. I do kind of see some holes where it seems like he kind of picked Pettis to come back to. I'm sure he watched the Ferguson fight where Ferguson was able to walk down Pettis and just put the pressure on him and eventually break him. Obviously, when it comes to a Nate Diaz fight or a Diaz fight in general, it's going to be can the other guy just land leg kicks, because that is going to absolutely slow down a Diaz. Pettis throws awesome leg kicks. He also throws like a right hook right after that landed a bunch of times on Ferguson. So I think that's going to be key. Pettis, he does dumb things by just backing up to the cage and just letting guys tee off on him and trying to counter. It worked out for him against a Wonder Boy, but kind of before that he was getting beat.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of struck lightning. In this fight, I think Pettis is going to have enough in the first 2 rounds. Those leg kicks and the striking game is going to be on point. The third, it gets a little sketchy if Diaz is still around, because Pettis is still a guy that when he's throwing what he needs to throw, he's usually gassed by the third. Another sketchy thing is he is a brittle dude. He breaks his hands. He gets injured a lot. So I actually took Pettis. I got him for 2 units. I kind of hope I'm wrong. I got him at minus 113. Has a bit of a hedge. I took Diaz in round 3 at plus 1400 for a quarter of a unit. I think that it could get sketchy in the third. I just don't like matchups where guys are really, really good leg kickers against Diaz. It's kind of a win-win for me. If Pettis wins, I win money. If Diaz wins, then I lose money. But at least the Diaz wins, and he'll get another payday.
Okay, Wes.
I think there's far too many people on Pettis in this fight. Like far too many people. I don't know if I've seen a Diaz bet yet, to tell you the truth. Everybody I see on Twitter is picking and betting Pettis in this fight.
Well, fuck me, Wes.
I mean, I get it. Sean makes a bunch of good points. Mainly the leg kicks is spot on. That's always a worry with a Diaz, Nick or Nate. But man, I can't get out of my head. Like, we was there at that Stephen Thompson fight, and Stephen Thompson was beating the absolute shit out of Anthony Pettis. And Pettis catches him, like Sean said, with fucking lightning, and it was over. He got the shit beat out of him by Tony Ferguson. I mean, since he's come up to 170, it's not like he's looked great or anything. The layoff definitely worries me a little with Nate, but fuck it, how many layoffs has he had? I mean, he does this shit all the time, man. I think the pressure is going to be a problem for Pettis. I mean, Thompson he didn't put straight pressure on Pettis, but he backed him up most of that fight, mainly because, like Sean said, Pettis just tends to back up to the cage. He's done it forever. He's going to allow Nate to walk him down. If he can't slow him down with leg kicks or land something massive, because Nate's got a fucking chin on him, man. That dude can take it. I don't know, man. I think this is a little bit closer than what I'm seeing people picking and betting. And I'm picking Nate in this fight. I'm not sure if I'm gonna bet it. But I think that pressure is gonna matter. I think Pettis is just gonna let Nate dictate the fight. And if he doesn't get Nate out of there, like Sean said, the third round is going to get really sketchy. You better hope that he doesn't break one of his hands again, because that's usually going to happen. He always tires towards the third round, especially now later in his career. He's up at 170, seems to be carrying a little more muscle now. You know what you're going to get out of Nate. He's going to walk forward, and he's going to throw a lot of strikes, man. And we talk over and over about how these judges judge volume. I'm pretty positive that Nate's going to have the volume advantage in this fight. So, I mean, if this gets to the cards, man, I'd rather have my money on a guy that's just throwing so many punches every single round than a guy that's backing up towards the cage and trying to hit a bomb like he did against Thompson or even Ferguson. So, I like Nate in this fight. I haven't bet it yet, but I'll probably end up taking some of the plus money.
You Sean? Oh yeah, right. You already told us your thoughts. How could I?
I kind of hope you're right, Wes.
I do too.
I got Pettis a B-, and candidly, I'm not sure what to grade Nate Diaz at this point. I don't know. That's really the question mark here. I don't know what we get with Nate. He hasn't fought in how long has it been new, Sean? Now, I mean, you would know more than anyone.
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years.
I believe.
That's never usually a good sign. I'll say that. I mean, I feel like in 5 rounds, Nate might win this fight. I'd probably favor him in 5-round fight.
Oh, yeah.
Just by volume. I feel like Pettis could be jabbed here quite a bit. Man, I mean, I think you have to pick Anthony Pettis to win this fight just because of the long layoff for Nate and how much does he really care? This isn't the fight that he really wanted. If he was scheduled to fight McGregor, I think that would be a totally different experience and a totally different Nate.
Don't he think that getting a win here, though, gets him that massive payday against McGregor in the fall, though?
Yeah.
If assuming McGregor wants it, which I assume he does, then yes.
There's a carrot here for Nate. You
would think so, right? I mean, there should be. But man, that's all I can say. I don't know.
It is a tough one. There's a lot of variables.
There's a lot of variables, and I mean, I just keep going back to Nate's inactivity. I think that could be a problem. But I mean, he certainly can beat Anthony Pettis. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he even finished the Pettis in this bout. Just with a lot of jabs, Pettis gets cut up. Somehow it goes to the ground.
Brittle as shit. Like that guy is so brittle now.
Totally. But let's see. I don't want my money anywhere near this because of all the unknowns. But I'm gonna be entertained either way. Main event, we got a rematch of a fight we saw last year. Now champion of heavyweight Daniel Cormier taking on former champion Stipe Miocic in the rematch we didn't know we wanted to have. We'll start with Wes here.
Yeah, that nobody really wanted. There's like 1 or 2 fights I want to see DC fight, and this really isn't one of them. Man, me personally, I think DC at minus 135 is a gift, man. I just don't. I don't know. I guess that he could get knocked out by Stipe Miocic, but what have we ever seen to make you really think that, though? Like, the dude has literally been hurt one time by the greatest fighter to ever walk this planet. That's
he got
it.
dropped by Gus.
Yeah, I mean,
With the knee.
I'll give you that one, I guess. But one guy legitimately hurt him his entire career, and it wasn't fucking Miocic. And look, I like Stipe as a fighter. I think he's a really good heavyweight, but I that's the extent. I think he's a really good heavyweight. He's not some fucking dynamic fighter that I think really gives a guy like DC problems, who I think is a truly great fighter. As much as I don't like him, I say it over and over. I think DC is a truly great fighter. That guy's got so many weapons. I I think he's going to finish Stipe again. I just don't. Nothing tells me or shows me that this is going to go any different than it did last time. Miocic is the same guy that he's always been. He's going to get into a sloppy exchange with DC at some point, and I think DC's going to catch him with something again. DC's the better wrestler. DC can pretty much put this fight wherever he wants to. I'm not sure how many times you're ever going to get DC at minus 135 when he's not fighting John Jones, so I got to take some of that. I think DC gets it done again.
New Sean.
I'm a little less confident in DC than Wes. I still think he's going to win, and I did also bet him. Stipe had his moments in that first fight. He was able to hit Cormier a bunch.
Yeah.
He was doing all right. And then he just kind of got cracked on his ear when he wasn't looking, and it was over. I think this fight goes a couple more rounds than what it did this time. But as you said, Wes, I think DC has the advantage. I think he has faster hands. He has the better wrestling. He's the better fighter. I mean, it is still heavyweights. Stipe still has power, so I'm not going crazy on it. I just put a unit on Cormier at minus 130. But yeah, I just don't like going too big on heavyweights. There's definitely some volatility there. But DC has shown. I mean, he loses to the GOAT. That's about it.
And I think there's kind of a question now too about Stipe's chin, because he's been slicked a few times. It is heavyweights, but I think there's a slight question there.
Yeah.
You stole my thunder. I got Daniel Cormier an A++, Stipe Miocic an A+. Wes nailed it right on the head. There's absolutely a question mark about Stipe's chin. I mean, you can go back to the Struve fight. You saw it here. Cormier's really only been finished by a head kick. That came out of nowhere, and he didn't fall face flat.
Yep, wasn't even slicked out.
Yeah, I mean, he got brutalized in order to be finished. Stipe doesn't have that, let's call it insurance policy that Daniel Cormier does, and that's a big issue, I think, and why I think Cormier needs to be favored in this bout and likely wins it again is that he can take a lot more without being hurt or put in a compromising position than Stipe Miocic does. Never mind the offensive wrestling talents of Stipe, or rather of Cormier. Sure, Stipe has a major size advantage or length advantage, but chin, heavyweight, the hands are going to connect on both sides, and I'll take the sturdier chin from a guy who really hasn't been hit a heck of a lot in his career in comparison to Stipe. That will do it for this week's MMA Analysis podcast. Thanks again for listening. Do we finally get a week off?
Yes.
We actually, after we talked about it in the start of the episode, we actually do have a week off. So we'll see if we're going to be back. Maybe if this card delivers as much as we hope it is, maybe we'll do a quick one next week, just talking about the aftermath. But
you always have Wes drunk after the fight. So
you got the beeps.
And then the following week, we're going to China for another title.
Is China Goat fighting?
China Goat is not fighting.
Sean's China Goat's fighting, ain't it?
Yeah, Lil Janglang's fighting.
Yeah, Jangling.
Not the real China Goat though.
No, that's
really
true.
not the China Goat.
But there's a couple good fights on that. You got Lil Jangling and Elijah Dushku. You got Evloev. We'll see what he comes back with after looking really good in his debut.
Ismagulov.
I mean that main's actually a pretty decent fight. I think that title fight should actually be fairly entertaining.
We might have a new China Go, is what you're saying.
I don't see it, but I guess there's a chance.
That would be something.
That would be something.
Yeah.
There would be a Chinese champion in the UFC.
There's a lot of money if that happens.
There's no doubt about that. We'll see. we'll see. But yeah, should be a fun pay-per-view card. Should be, like I said, we got 3 entrees on Saturday night. That's about as good as we're gonna get at this stage of the sport. Really excited for it. We'll see if we have a new champion. We'll see if the YOLO thing continues. Can Nate Diaz set himself up for something in the future? A lot of storylines. We'll be back to talk about it. Gonna be fun. Enjoy the fights.